Catherine McLean, founder and CEO of Dillon Green, and today I have with me Uche Isiugo. Welcome, Uche.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
He is joining us from sunny Florida. So I wanted to first congratulate you on being named to Forbes' next 1,000 honorees list. For those of you who do not know, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your current roles?
Thanks, Catherine, for having me. So I'm an entrepreneur, as you know. So my firm is Infranergy. We are focused on providing clean energy solutions to businesses and communities. So as part of that, we also offer software, which we're building to enhance people's lives, really to improve their customer satisfaction with clean energy solutions. Mm-hmm. What that looks like is essentially we help people optimize their energy savings in their power bill, mm-hmm. and also help them to actually earn income with their battery storage, which is in their house. They could use that to trade their excess energy capacity on mm-hmm. the grid. So essentially an energy trader in your pocket is what we call it. Before I got here, I used to work for other energy companies. Mm-hmm. Spent a while in NextEra Energy, Key Capture Energy. Prior to that, mm-hmm. I had a career in energy and finance. The sort of benefit of doing what I do now is I'm able to integrate the finance with the energy, with the engineering elements, and make impactful commitments to different communities across the world, really. So from developing projects in California to developing projects in Africa.
Okay.
This has allowed me to be able to do that. So it's been fantastic, really.
And I see on LinkedIn it says you're a managing partner, Emerging Infrastructure Capital as well?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Emerging Infrastructure Capital was the vehicle we launched to start driving investments in financial advisory, mm-hmm. Within the clean energy space and within the fintech space and the intersection of that. So Infranergy was actually birthed out of that because Emerging Infrastructure Capital, being a venture studio, the purpose is to build companies of the future. And so the first company we rolled out was Infranergy.
Right.
Since made other investments in other companies that are similar in mm-hmm. nature. So a couple companies in Africa that focus on in the energy space, we invested in them. And then we have recently rolled out software for climate tech. So Emerging Infrastructure is our vehicle for those investments and also for building these companies of the future.
Okay, great. And I know that your educational background is mostly sort of finance and economics. Did you always know that you wanted to apply this in the energy field? And how did you sort of make your way into the clean energy industry?
Yeah, so I grew up in an oil-rich country, Nigeria. It's an energy-rich country, but mm-hmm. it's energy poverty. So there was a lot of when you look at the society, there's a very broad strata of people from extremely rich to extremely poor,
right?
So, which was obviously a negative thing because you have all this wealth, but you have all this poverty. So,
right.
Growing up there, just made me realize that energy is it's very, very important. Part of my interest was to be in the energy field. One of my first internships was with Chevron. Flew mm-hmm. out to California from Philly when I was in college, worked there for the summer. And my project was to do some competitive intelligence on Tesla and some other emerging alternative fuels. This is back in 2006.
Okay.
And so I was one of the first guys to really delve into Tesla and figure out what they were doing back in 2006. And I kind of cut the bug there with making an impact through energy. Worked at Boeing in the first part of my career. I went to grad school, worked on a PhD. And while doing that, I figured I could, at that point, pivot back into energy. And right. So I did some work in investment banking, which allowed me to do some work in energy, on energy deals and privatization within the energy sector. And based on that, I decided to go work for NextEra Energy at the time.
Mhm.
Had other opportunities, other offers, but I thought this was the best one, just to be in that clean energy space and to be a leader within that space and manage assets, which was great opportunity to learn, which I was privileged to do. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was my journey. That's how that.
it
How, how-
you have certainly covered the United States of America. I mean, Temple, which is what, Philly, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Seattle, MBA.
Mhm.
New
California,
Orleans,
California.
PhD. Now you're in Florida. Yeah, you have worked your way around the US.
I have. I've lived in five different places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about entrepreneurship, something near and dear to my heart, obviously. Why did you decide to go from working as an employee at like NextEra Key Capture to deciding to found your own energy company?
Yeah, so it was always a passion of mine. I grew up in a community of academics, and it's a great place to grow up. A warm community, very supportive, very smart people, which you kind of thought it was normal to grow up there because that's kind of all I knew, right? So
Right.
doctors, professors. For me, I love the knowledge, but I also love the practical aspect of applying that knowledge and really impacting lives at scale by being
Hmm.
an entrepreneur, not just writing papers about ideas, but actually putting those ideas into practice.
Right.
So, as a young kid, I read very widely about the world, business, finance, just, politics, geopolitics as well.
Hmm.
So I just thought, hey, I wanted to be out there making those decisions that impact people's lives directly. So always I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and just having this love for economics and finance was a way I thought would be a path towards that.
Right.
And energy just intersected with that.
Right.
I grew up around a lot of, my parents' friends who were professors and also in economics and finance, and just having that love for just commerce, right?
Yeah.
Made me want to step into this. And so, but growing up how I grew up, my parents are sort of bearish on entrepreneurship since they're professors, right? So they always encouraged me to do that only when I had enough experience. And I actually started off, the first time I actually ventured out to be an entrepreneur on a full-time basis was back in like 2011.
Right.
And caught some of the harsh realities of that, and figured out that I needed to have a very solid resume. That way, when I eventually come back to being an entrepreneur, I could open doors pretty seamlessly, where they look at you and they figure out that you walk the talk, you talk the talk, you know what you're talking about.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
so yeah, that was why that timing made sense for me.
but I always say to people when, they say, are you nervous to start your own company? Like, what if it doesn't work out? Sort of more risk adverse people. I just think, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll go work for another recruitment company where they take 50%, 75%, 75% of
Right.
your money. You know what I mean? Like, you can, the job market is very hot in our space. So worst case scenario, you can always go back, but I don't think failure necessarily is what drives you as an entrepreneur. I don't think that you can look at it negatively like that. I don't ever think about failure. I'm always thinking about like, it's not an option.
The
You know
upside,
what I
yeah,
mean?
upside
Yeah.
is
Yeah. You got to
absolutely.
focus on the positive.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we're in a very large industry. There have been some big developments. The industry is over $2 trillion globally.
Yeah.
In the US, we've passed the BIL, which is the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. We've passed
Mhm.
the IRA, which is the Inflation Reduction Act.
Mhm.
And so I think that the world and the US recognizes that climate change is real, and the
Mhm.
energy transition is very much required to really help reduce the temperatures globally, right? To adhere to the Paris commitment. So we're in the center of a big opportunity. Personally, I'm very privilege to have been able to work in some of the companies I worked for, to, soak in all that knowledge and lead projects and be able to contribute
Yeah.
in my way to the efforts. So
Yeah.
of course, entrepreneurship is not a bed of roses, right? Work very long hours, to say the least. But it comes with its own benefits as well. There's the
Yeah.
upside, there's also the downside, but we take
Yeah.
it all.
Did you have any mentors that inspired you to focus on clean energy or starting your own business?
So I had mentors from a professional perspective. I didn't have so many mentors. I probably should have had more professionally. Personally, I had people I looked up to,
Yeah.
who I grew up around and who were professionals, and probably more so informal than formal.
Right.
And I think that it's great to have, a more formalized mentor-mentee relationship, which I didn't take advantage of as much as I should have in my career. But whenever I did take advantage of it, I found them very beneficial.
Mhm.
Some of the mentors I had, for example, when I was at Boeing, one of our leaders, the director, was my mentor, and he encouraged me to take on a leadership role, which was to drive lean, what they called at the time, lean plus, which was like
Mhm.
cost savings, driving improvements in processes. And I was, a pretty young kid, early 20s, leading a team of 9 people who were like way older than me, on like projects. And we actually won the Lean Plus award within finance. Over 30 different teams, we won that.
Wow.
Because, and that gave me a lot of exposure and a lot of confidence as well in myself to do other things like that. And that was based on the director giving me that advice to do that. And that worked out. Even though
Yeah.
at first I was, you know, pretty scared of taking that big
Mhm.
opportunity, but it worked out and I learned a lot. Yeah, I think, it's great to get mentors. And actually, right now, I'm in a couple of different organizations. Like, you may know, I'm in the CBN and also Clean Tech Leaders Roundtable, which
Yeah.
I have a mentor as part of that as well. So
Yeah.
and we also kind of peer mentor each other and learn from each other, best practices, lessons learned. And so it's I call it a virtuous cycle of learning. I'm keen on learning all the time. So
Yeah.
doing that more for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Just a quick shout out to Clean Tech Leaders Roundtable, because that's obviously that's how we got introduced
Yeah.
through Angela Lukey. So I'm a big fan of CTLR and do a lot with them in DC. Tell me a little bit about Soblox AI.
Yeah. So Soulblocks AI is a platform that we're developing, and it has a suite. The vision is a suite of different tools. The
Right.
tool that we have, it's a virtual power plant platform. And what
Okay.
a virtual power plant is a platform that aggregates and connects different, solar powered batteries, heat pumps, other distributed energy resources that you have in your home or your business, and monitors them. So you can monitor them remotely on an app, and we can from our back end. We use artificial intelligence to monitor your usage. And the benefit
Hmm.
of that is that helps reduce your power bill. So we monitor your demand. We also monitor supply of energy. And so as part of benefiting you at home for your power bill, we also benefit the grid because we can reduce demand on the grid when the
Hmm.
grid is stressed out the most. And that helps prevent blackouts. When you look at the US has more blackouts than any other developed country, which is unacceptable.
Wow.
We have over 200% more blackouts than we did back in 1984. So we're supposed to be getting better, not worse. We're getting a lot worse. And so the software is meant to help correct that. And how do we correct that? By aggregating thousands of these devices together, we can make a major impact on the grid by helping the grid become more stable. And so one of the projects I'm proud about is one of our first tools as part of Soulblocks, the platform, is a power trade and pricing tool, which helps energy stakeholders in the energy market price more accurately and make decisions on how much energy they're buying and selling and at what time. So
Hmm.
accuracy of that, looking at, historical prices and figuring out what, like a future sort of Pandora's box on what your energy obligations are from a pricing perspective. And this helps utilities, it helps REPs, retail electricity providers, with their decisions on buying and selling energy output.
Okay.
So that's Soul Blocks. Another project I'm proud of, one of the projects we've done, we at the time, the largest battery project in Nigeria, the largest private sector battery in Nigeria, we developed, financed, deployed, and still operate that till this day. And we launched that about a year and a half ago, actually 2 years ago, now. I have the benefit of working in battery storage, and my division in NextEra, which is called the business management division. When I was out there, we manage all the projects. We have profit and loss responsibility, all the decisions for all the assets. We own those decisions. So I was responsible for all the battery storage projects in the US, all the utility scale battery projects. And we had the largest portfolio of battery storage projects, NextEra being the largest energy company within the renewable energy space. So I was leading and responsible for the largest portfolio of batteries really in the world. So which was, when you look at it, that looks like a lot, but we didn't think of it that way, but that was the true impact of the portfolio of what I was doing.
Right.
And that's I'm proud of, because I was able to create processes, for a nascent technology that was new at NextEra, it was new everywhere in the world.
Right.
Having managed batteries since 2016, I was able to optimize from, the power marketing aspect. We had one of the first batteries ever to be a hedged asset, which is a financial derivative to energy arbitrage, launching projects where part of our revenue stream was energy arbitrage, one of the first projects to do that. And then other use cases, frequency regulation and capacity. So having to do with multiple products for battery storage and multiple structures with PPAs, which for batteries are energy storage agreements,
Right.
And just merchant trading of our output was very instrumental in helping me learn a lot and become able to do what I do as an entrepreneur today with battery storage and solar.
Amazing. So my last question I have for you is around, I know that emerging infrastructure capital is focused on unlocking value for disadvantaged global populations. Can you talk a little bit more about that specifically?
Absolutely. So when we started emerging infrastructure capital, the focus was on looking at some of the underserved populations, right? So from minorities to, businesses in the middle market, helping them expand, helping them grow with tools. And so we were offering advisory to, the first project we did was we offered advisory to solar developers who needed to raise capital.
Okay.
So we did that. Then we started investing directly, and we then developed Infranergy as an offshoot of that.
Got it.
So right now we are still managing some of those investments and making partnerships that would help scale renewables and help scale financial technology, which really is improving penetration of financial services for the unbanked. From fintech platforms to cleantech. So that's our focus. One of the things we're looking at and we're very passionate about is accelerators and working with partners to launch those kind of programs that help entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of experience in cleantech and in fintech. So bring them tools that they need to expand and grow the resources, the knowledge, and our relationships. Knowledge is power. A lot of folks don't really know, don't have the information that they need. And we could connect the dots and help them out with growing based on the resources that we've used in the past that we found successful, based on our lessons learned, based on our best practices as well.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your background with us and what you're up to. And it's very exciting, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.